There may come a moment in your life when everything you once depended on begins to fall apart, when the people you trusted become distant, when your plans collapse without warning, and when your heart quietly asks a question you cannot answer, which is, why is this happening to me? In those silent moments, your mind begins to fill with fear, and you start to believe that this darkness will never end, that this pain will stay with you forever, and that somehow life has forgotten about you. But the Buddha taught something that most people never realize, and that is the truth, that your worst moments are not here to destroy you, but to awaken you. There are truths that, once understood, can protect your peace even when everything around you is falling apart. And today, you will remember the 8 truths that can guide you safely through even the darkest time of your life. 1. This moment is temporary, even if it feels permanent. When you are going through a painful phase in life, your mind has a powerful tendency to convince you that what you are feeling right now will last forever, and this illusion makes your suffering feel even heavier and more frightening. When sadness, loss, or uncertainty enters your life, it does not just remain an emotion, but it begins to shape your thoughts and your expectations about the future. You may start believing that things will never improve, that your happiness is gone permanently, and that this difficult phase defines the rest of your life. But the Buddha taught that this belief is not reality. It is only a misunderstanding created by the mind. One of the most important truths he taught is the truth of impermanence, which means that everything in existence is constantly changing, including your emotions, your circumstances, and the situations you are facing right now. Nothing in life remains fixed forever. The pain you feel today will not remain in the same form or intensity forever, even if it feels overwhelming at this moment. Just as the darkest night never stays permanently and is always followed by sunrise, your difficult phase will also change with time. When people are suffering, they often forget this truth and begin to see their pain as permanent, which creates a deeper sense of fear and hopelessness. The mind begins to say that this will never end, and this thought itself becomes another source of suffering. But when you understand deeply that everything is temporary, something inside you begins to relax. You stop believing that your current pain controls your entire future, and you begin to see it as something that is passing through your life rather than something that defines your life. Think about the difficult moments you have already survived in your past. There were times when you felt hurt, lost, or broken, and in those moments, it may have felt like things would never improve. Yet those moments eventually passed. The emotions changed, the situation changed, and you moved forward. This is the natural movement of life. Life never remains frozen in one state. It is always flowing, always transforming, and always moving towards something new. Your present suffering is part of this movement, not the end of it. Your current pain is not your final destination. It is only a temporary phase in your journey. It is one chapter in a much larger story that is still unfolding. When you truly understand this truth, you stop losing hope, and you begin to face your life with greater calm, greater strength, and greater awareness, knowing that no matter how heavy this moment feels, it will not last forever. 2. Suffering is not here to destroy you. It is here to awaken you. When suffering enters your life, it often feels like something has gone wrong, as if life is working against you, or as if you are being punished for something you do not understand. Pain can make you feel weak, lost, and disconnected from yourself, and during these moments, it is natural to wish that the suffering would disappear immediately. But the Buddha taught that suffering is not an enemy that has come to destroy you, but a teacher that has come to awaken you. He explained that suffering has the power to reveal truths that comfort and ease often hide. When everything in life is easy, people rarely look deeply within themselves. They remain attached to people, attached to expectations, and attached to temporary things, believing that these things will bring permanent happiness. But suffering breaks these illusions and forces you to see reality more clearly. Suffering helps you understand the true nature of life. It shows you that external things cannot provide lasting peace, and it helps you realize that true strength must come from within. Many people discover their deepest wisdom, their strongest resilience, and their greatest awareness during their most difficult moments. Pain forces you to grow in ways that comfort never could. It teaches you patience when everything feels uncertain. It teaches you emotional independence when people leave or disappoint you. It teaches you awareness when your mind feels restless and unstable. These lessons, although painful, are shaping you into someone wiser and stronger. The Buddha himself experienced suffering before reaching enlightenment. He faced confusion, struggle, and deep questioning before he awakened to the truth. His suffering was not meaningless. It was part of the process that led him to clarity, peace, and freedom. In the same way, your suffering is not meaningless. It is helping you break old illusions, release unhealthy attachments, and discover a deeper understanding of yourself and life. Without suffering, many people would remain asleep, never realizing their true strength or their true nature. Your suffering is not here to destroy you. It is here to transform you. It is pushing you to grow, to awaken, and to become stronger than you were before. When you begin to see your suffering in this way, it loses its power to break you, and instead, it becomes a force that helps you awaken into a wiser, calmer, and more aware version of yourself. 3. You do not control everything, and accepting this will set you free. One of the biggest sources of suffering in human life comes from the desire to control everything. The mind constantly tries to control people, control situations, and control outcomes, believing that if everything happens according to its expectations, then peace will naturally follow. You may want people to behave in certain ways. You may want your plans to succeed exactly as you imagined, and you may want life to move in a predictable and secure direction. But the reality of life is that not everything is within your control, and the Buddha taught that trying to control what cannot be controlled creates unnecessary suffering. Life is constantly changing, and people, circumstances, and outcomes often move in ways that you cannot predict or control, no matter how much effort you put in. When you resist this reality, your mind creates frustration, anger, and emotional pain. You begin to suffer not only because of what happened, but because of your resistance to what happened. You may replay situations in your mind, wishing they had gone differently, or you may hold on to expectations that reality does not fulfill. This resistance creates inner tension, and the more you resist reality, the more your suffering increases. The Buddha explained that peace does not come from controlling life, but from accepting life as it is. Acceptance does not mean giving up or becoming weak. It means understanding the limits of your control and freeing yourself from the constant struggle to force reality into your expectations. When you begin to accept that not everything is in your control, something inside you begins to relax. You stop fighting battles that cannot be won, and you stop exhausting your mind with endless resistance. You begin to focus your energy on what you can control, which is your thoughts, your actions, and your awareness. This shift creates inner stability because your peace is no longer dependent on external outcomes. You begin to understand that while you cannot control everything that happens to you, you can control how you respond to it. The Buddha taught that true freedom comes not from controlling life, but from freeing yourself from the need to control life. When you release this need, your mind becomes calmer, your heart becomes lighter, and your suffering begins to decrease. You stop feeling like life is against you, and instead you begin to move with life rather than against it. This acceptance creates inner peace, because you are no longer trapped in the endless struggle of trying to control what was never yours to control in the first place. 4. Your mind can be your prison or your freedom. The Buddha taught that the mind is the source of both suffering and liberation, and this is one of the most important truths you can ever understand during difficult times. Many people believe that their suffering comes entirely from external situations such as loss, rejection, failure, or uncertainty. But the Buddha explained that suffering does not come only from what happens outside of you. It comes mainly from how your mind reacts to what happens. Two people can face the same situation, and yet one becomes completely broken while the other remains calm and grows stronger. The difference is not the situation itself, but the relationship each person has with their own mind. When something painful happens, your mind begins to create thoughts about it, and these thoughts often repeat themselves again and again. Your mind may replay the same painful memory repeatedly, or it may imagine a future filled with fear, uncertainty, and loss. It begins to create stories that make the suffering feel larger, heavier, and more permanent than it actually is. Instead of experiencing pain as a temporary emotion, the mind turns it into a permanent identity, making you believe that you are your pain, that you are your failure, or that you are your loss. This is how the mind becomes a prison. It traps you inside cycles of fear, regret, and emotional suffering, even when the external situation has already passed. The Buddha taught that the problem is not the thoughts themselves, but your unconscious attachment to those thoughts. When you automatically believe every thought your mind creates, you give those thoughts power over your emotions and your inner peace. Negative thoughts begin to control your mood, your actions, and your sense of self. You may begin to believe that you are weak, that you are not enough, or that your life will never improve. These thoughts slowly drain your energy and disconnect you from your inner stability. But the Buddha also taught that the same mind that creates suffering can also create freedom. The key is awareness. When you become aware of your thoughts instead of automatically believing them, something powerful begins to happen. You start to see that thoughts are not permanent truths. They are temporary mental events that arise and pass away, just like clouds moving across the sky. You begin to understand that you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness observing those thoughts. This realization creates distance between you and your suffering. When you observe your thoughts calmly, without reacting to them or identifying with them, they begin to lose their power over you. Fearful thoughts may still arise, but they no longer control you in the same way. Painful memories may still appear, but they no longer trap you emotionally. Instead of being controlled by your mind, you begin to develop mastery over your mind. This is the moment when your mind stops being your prison and begins to become your freedom. The Buddha emphasized practices such as mindfulness and awareness because they help you observe your mind clearly. When you become mindful, you stop living unconsciously inside your thoughts and you begin to live consciously in the present moment. The present moment is always calmer than the imagined fears created by the mind. In the present moment, you realize that you are still breathing, still alive, and still capable of moving forward. Your mind has incredible power. It can create suffering even in peaceful situations, and it can also create peace even during difficult situations. When you train your mind to observe without attachment, you free yourself from unnecessary suffering. You stop believing every negative story your mind tells you, and you begin to reconnect with a deeper sense of calm that exists within you. True freedom does not come from controlling the outside world. It comes from understanding and mastering your inner world. When you learn to observe your mind with awareness, patience, and calmness, your mind stops being a place of suffering and becomes a place of peace. This is the freedom the Buddha taught. It is not something you find outside of yourself. It is something you awaken within yourself. 5. You are stronger than you realize. even if you feel weak right now. During difficult times, one of the most painful illusions the mind creates is the belief that you are weak, that you are not capable of handling what life has placed in front of you, and that somehow you have reached your limit. When suffering becomes intense, your energy feels drained, your confidence begins to disappear, and your mind starts comparing your current self to the version of you that once felt happy, confident, and at peace. You may begin to believe that you have lost your strength forever, but the Buddha taught that true strength is not the absence of pain. True strength is the ability to remain present, aware, and standing even while pain exists. Strength is not measured by how easy your life is. Strength is measured by your ability to continue moving forward even when life becomes difficult. If you look honestly at your own life, you will realize that you have already survived moments that once felt impossible to survive. There were times when you felt completely broken, times when your heart felt heavy with disappointment, times when you felt lost and uncertain about your future, and yet, somehow, you are still here. You continued breathing, you continued living, you continued moving forward, even when you did not feel strong. This alone is proof of your strength. Many people do not recognize their own strength because they expect strength to feel powerful and confident all the time, but true strength often feels quiet, invisible, and patient. It is the strength that keeps you going when everything inside you wants to stop. The Buddha taught that every human being has inner strength, but most people are unaware of it because they are too focused on their external circumstances. When life is comfortable, this inner strength remains hidden because it is not needed. But when life becomes difficult, this strength begins to reveal itself. It reveals itself in your ability to endure pain. It reveals itself in your ability to face uncertainty. It reveals itself in your ability to continue living, even when your heart feels heavy. This strength does not come from outside sources. It does not come from other people, possessions, or external success. It comes from within your awareness, within your ability to remain present and conscious despite suffering. Suffering itself is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign that you are human. Every person who has ever lived has experienced pain, loss, and struggle. Even the Buddha himself experienced suffering before his awakening. What separates those who awaken from those who remain trapped in suffering is not the absence of pain, but their relationship with pain. Those who awaken learn to face pain with awareness instead of resistance. They learn to observe their suffering without allowing it to define their identity. They understand that suffering is temporary, and they trust their inner ability to move through it. Your strength does not disappear just because you feel weak in this moment. Feeling weak is a temporary experience, not a permanent truth. Strength does not mean never feeling fear, sadness, or uncertainty. Strength means not allowing those feelings to stop your life completely. Strength means continuing to exist, continuing to breathe, and continuing to trust that change is possible. Even when you feel lost, there is a part of you that is still aware, still present, and still capable of healing. The Buddha taught that awareness itself is strength. The fact that you are aware of your suffering means that you are not completely controlled by it. Awareness creates space between you and your pain. In that space, healing begins. In that space, clarity begins. In that space, your true strength begins to reveal itself. You may not feel strong right now, but strength is not something you need to create. It is something that already exists within you. It has carried you through every painful moment you have faced so far, and it will carry you through this moment as well. Your current suffering is not proof of your weakness. It is proof that you are still in the process of becoming stronger, wiser, and more aware than you were before. 6. Letting go is not losing. It is freeing yourself from unnecessary suffering. One of the deepest causes of human suffering, according to the Buddha, is attachment. Attachment is the invisible force that makes you hold tightly to people, expectations, outcomes, identities, and versions of life that you believe must remain the same in order for you to feel safe and happy. At first, attachment feels comforting because it gives you a sense of stability and control. You become attached to certain people because they make you feel understood. You become attached to certain outcomes because they make you feel secure. You become attached to certain identities because they make you feel important and complete. But the Buddha taught that this comfort is temporary and fragile because everything in life is constantly changing. People change, situations change, and life itself moves in directions that you cannot fully predict or control. When you are deeply attached to things that are temporary, you create a silent fear within yourself, the fear of losing them, and this fear becomes the root of suffering. Many people believe that suffering begins when they lose something or someone important, but in truth, suffering begins much earlier, at the moment attachment is formed. The stronger the attachment, the stronger the suffering becomes when change inevitably occurs. When someone you depended on leaves, when something you hoped for does not happen, or when life takes away something you believed was permanent, the mind resists this reality. It refuses to accept the change. It replays memories, questions the past, and creates endless thoughts about what could have been done differently. This resistance creates emotional pain that feels overwhelming and difficult to escape. The mind keeps holding on, believing that if it refuses to let go, somehow the past can be restored. But the Buddha taught that this resistance only deepens suffering. Reality continues to move forward, while the mind remains trapped in what no longer exists. Letting go does not mean that you stop caring. It does not mean that you erase memories or pretend that something never mattered to you. Letting go means accepting reality as it is, without fighting against it internally. It means understanding that holding on to something that no longer exists in the same way only keeps you emotionally trapped in the past. The Buddha explained that peace becomes possible only when you stop resisting change and allow life to unfold naturally. Letting go is not an act of weakness, it is an act of wisdom. It is the moment when you stop exhausting yourself trying to control what was never fully in your control to begin with. Many people remain trapped in suffering for years, not because their pain is permanent, but because they refuse to release their attachment to how things used to be. The mind creates an image of the past and tries to live inside that image, comparing it constantly to the present moment. This comparison creates dissatisfaction, sadness, and emotional heaviness. But the Buddha taught that the past exists only as a memory, and the more you cling to it, the more disconnected you become from the present moment, which is the only place where peace can exist. When you let go of your attachment to the past, you free your mind from the burden of carrying something that no longer exists. Attachment also creates suffering in your expectations about the future. You may create specific visions of how your life should unfold, how people should behave, and how situations should turn out. When reality does not match these expectations, the mind feels disappointed and disturbed. But the Buddha taught that expectations are creations of the mind, not guarantees of reality. When you release your attachment to specific outcomes, you allow life to move naturally, without constantly fighting against it. This does not mean that you stop having goals or desires. It means that your peace no longer depends entirely on whether those goals and desires are fulfilled. Letting go creates emotional freedom. It removes the constant tension created by resistance. When you stop holding on so tightly, your mind becomes lighter. You stop replaying the same painful thoughts repeatedly. You stop trying to force life to return to what it once was. You begin to accept what is in front of you. This acceptance creates space within your mind, and in that space, healing begins. Peace does not come from controlling everything. Peace comes from releasing the need to control everything. The Buddha often used the example of holding a burning object to explain attachment. If you hold a burning object in your hand, it will cause pain, and the longer you hold it, the more it will hurt you. The only way to stop the pain is to release your grip. In the same way, attachment to things that have changed or ended creates emotional suffering, and the only way to end that suffering is to release your mental grip. The pain does not come from the object itself, but from your refusal to release it. When you let go, you are not losing your strength. You are reclaiming your strength. You are choosing peace over resistance. You are choosing awareness over unconscious attachment. You are choosing freedom over emotional imprisonment. Letting go does not erase your past, but it frees your present. It allows you to move forward without carrying unnecessary emotional weight. Many people fear letting go because they believe it means they will lose something important. But the Buddha taught that letting go does not take away what is truly meant for you. It only removes the suffering created by clinging. What is meant to remain in your life will remain naturally. What is meant to leave will leave naturally. Your peace should not depend on forcing things to stay that are already changing. When you learn to let go, you stop fighting life. You begin to flow with life instead of against it. You stop exhausting your mind with endless resistance, and you begin to experience moments of calm even during uncertainty. This calmness is not created by controlling external events. It is created by releasing internal resistance. Letting go is one of the most powerful acts of inner transformation. It marks the moment when you stop seeking stability in things that are unstable and begin to discover stability within yourself. Your peace becomes independent of external outcomes. Your happiness becomes rooted in awareness rather than attachment. You stop depending on people, situations, and outcomes to define your emotional state. The Buddha taught that true freedom begins the moment attachment ends. This freedom does not mean that life becomes perfect or free of difficulty. It means that your mind is no longer controlled by those difficulties. You experience life fully, but you are no longer emotionally imprisoned by it. You understand that everything is temporary, and instead of resisting this truth, you accept it with calm awareness. Letting go is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of your freedom. It is the moment when your suffering begins to dissolve and your inner peace begins to return. 7. Hard times are not punishing you. They are preparing you for a deeper awakening. When you are going through one of the hardest phases of your life, it is natural for your mind to believe that something has gone wrong, that life has become unfair, and that somehow you are being singled out to suffer more than others. Pain has a way of making everything feel personal. It makes you question your worth, your direction, and your purpose. You may begin to ask yourself why this is happening to you, why things are not working, and why life feels so heavy. But the Buddha taught that difficult times are not punishments. They are part of the natural process of awakening. They are not here to destroy you, but to transform your understanding, your awareness, and your relationship with life itself. Most people live their lives unconsciously when everything is comfortable. They depend on routines, relationships, and external stability to define their sense of identity and security. They assume that what they have today will remain forever. They assume that the people around them will never leave, that their plans will unfold exactly as expected, and that their emotional comfort will remain stable. But life does not follow these assumptions. Life constantly changes, and when those changes arrive, they disrupt the illusions of permanence that the mind has created. These disruptions often appear in the form of loss, rejection, failure, or uncertainty. While these experiences are painful, they serve a deeper purpose. They force you to see reality clearly. They break the illusions that kept you emotionally dependent on things that were never permanent. Hard times remove the false sense of control that the mind creates. They reveal that much of what you believed was stable was always temporary. At first, this realization can feel terrifying because the mind wants certainty and security. It wants guarantees. But the Buddha taught that true peace does not come from external certainty. It comes from internal awareness. Difficult times push you to discover this awareness. They force you to stop depending entirely on external conditions for your emotional stability. They guide you toward discovering a deeper source of peace that exists within you, independent of what happens outside. Suffering also reveals your hidden strength. When life is easy, you never fully discover how strong you are, because strength is not required. But when life becomes difficult, you are forced to endure uncertainty, emotional pain, and inner discomfort. Each moment that you continue forward, even when you feel broken, reveals your resilience. You begin to realize that you are capable of surviving experiences that once felt impossible to survive. This realization changes your relationship with fear. You begin to trust yourself more. You begin to understand that your strength does not come from external protection, but from your internal awareness. The Buddha himself went through deep suffering before his awakening. He experienced confusion, dissatisfaction, and emotional struggle as he searched for truth. His suffering was not meaningless. It was the very path that led him to enlightenment. Without experiencing suffering, he would not have been motivated to look deeper, to question the nature of existence, and to discover the path to inner freedom. In the same way, your suffering is guiding you toward a deeper understanding of yourself and life. It is helping you break free from unconscious patterns, emotional attachments, and illusions that previously controlled your mind. Hard times also teach you detachment. When everything you depend on externally begins to change or disappear, you are forced to look inward. You begin to realize that external things cannot provide permanent emotional security. This realization, although painful at first, is liberating. It helps you stop seeking permanent stability in temporary things. It helps you shift your focus inward toward awareness, presence, and inner peace. This shift is the beginning of true awakening. Pain also deepens your compassion. When you suffer, you begin to understand the suffering of others more clearly. You become less judgmental and more understanding. You realize that every person you meet is carrying invisible struggles. This awareness softens your heart. It connects you more deeply to the shared human experience. The Buddha taught that suffering, when understood correctly, opens the door to compassion, wisdom, and emotional maturity. Hard times strip away the false identities that you once believed defined you. They remove roles, expectations, and external labels that your mind depended on for validation. This process can feel like losing yourself, but in truth, it is helping you discover your true self, the self that exists beyond external conditions. You begin to understand that your true nature is not defined by success or failure, gain or loss, praise or rejection. Your true nature is awareness itself, calm, present, and unshaken beneath the surface of changing experiences. Difficult times also teach patience. In a world that constantly encourages instant results and immediate relief, suffering forces you to slow down. It teaches you that healing is a process, not an instant event. It teaches you to sit with uncertainty without immediately trying to escape it. This patience strengthens your mind. It increases your emotional endurance. It prepares you to face future challenges with greater calm and clarity. The Buddha taught that awakening often begins with suffering, because suffering breaks the illusion that external life alone can provide lasting peace. It pushes you to search for something deeper, something more stable than external conditions. This search leads you inward, toward awareness, toward mindfulness, and toward the realization that true peace exists within you, not outside of you. What feels like destruction is often transformation in disguise. Your old beliefs, attachments, and emotional dependencies are being broken down so that something stronger and more stable can emerge. You are not being destroyed. You are being reshaped. You are being prepared to live with greater awareness, greater strength, and greater freedom. Hard times are not the end of your story. They are the turning point where your awakening begins. They are the moment when you stop living unconsciously and begin living with deeper awareness. They are the moment when you stop depending entirely on external stability and begin discovering internal stability. They are the moment when your suffering begins to transform into wisdom. The Buddha taught that those who understand their suffering deeply are the ones who awaken fully. Your pain is not meaningless. It is guiding you toward greater clarity. It is helping you discover your true strength. It is helping you awaken from illusions and reconnect with your true nature. You may not understand the purpose of your suffering right now, but one day, when you look back, you will realize that these difficult moments were not here to break you. They were here to awaken you, strengthen you, and guide you toward a deeper, calmer, and more peaceful version of yourself. 8. You are not alone in your suffering, and this is part of the human journey. One of the heaviest feelings during difficult times is the belief that you are alone, that no one truly understands what you are going through, and that somehow you have been separated from the peace and stability that others seem to have. Suffering has a way of isolating you, not only physically, but emotionally and mentally. Even when you are surrounded by people, your inner world may feel silent and disconnected. Your mind may begin to tell you that you are the only one struggling this deeply, that others are stronger, happier, or more secure, and that somehow you are alone in your pain. But the Buddha taught that this belief is an illusion created by the mind. He taught that suffering is a universal part of the human experience, and that every human being, without exception, faces pain, loss, uncertainty, and emotional struggle at different points in their life. The Buddha explained that suffering is not a sign that something is wrong with you. It is a sign that you are human. Every person you see, no matter how calm or successful they appear on the outside, has faced moments of fear, confusion, heartbreak, and loss. Many people hide their suffering behind silence, behind routines, and behind outward appearances, but their inner struggles are real. When you understand this truth deeply, something inside you begins to soften. You stop seeing your suffering as something that separates you from others, and you begin to see it as something that connects you to the shared human experience. This understanding removes the feeling of isolation. You begin to realize that suffering is not your personal failure. It is part of the natural movement of life. Just as every human body experiences physical pain at some point, every human mind experiences emotional pain at some point. This does not mean that life is against you. It means that you are part of the same journey that every awakened person has walked before you. Even the Buddha himself experienced suffering before reaching enlightenment. He experienced dissatisfaction, uncertainty, and emotional struggle as he searched for truth. His suffering did not mean he was weak, it meant he was human. And it was through understanding his suffering that he awakened. Suffering also serves as a bridge that deepens your understanding of others. When you experience pain, you begin to see the pain of others more clearly. You become less judgmental and more compassionate. You realize that everyone you meet is carrying invisible burdens, fears, and struggles that may never be spoken. This awareness creates a deeper connection between you and the world. Instead of feeling isolated, you begin to feel connected to the shared reality of human existence. The Buddha taught that this awareness gives rise to compassion, and compassion transforms suffering into wisdom. Many people try to escape suffering by distracting themselves, by avoiding their emotions, or by pretending that everything is fine. But the Buddha taught that true peace comes not from escaping suffering, but from understanding it. When you stop running from your pain and begin to observe it with awareness, you begin to see that it is not permanent. You begin to see that it is an experience that arises and passes, just like every other experience in life. This understanding removes the fear that suffering will last forever. It replaces fear with awareness, and awareness creates calm. Your suffering is not here to isolate you forever. It is part of a process that is helping you grow, awaken, and understand life more deeply. Many of the wisest and most peaceful people you will ever encounter reached their peace not by avoiding suffering, but by facing it and understanding it. Their suffering taught them patience. It taught them awareness. It taught them emotional independence. In the same way, your suffering is teaching you lessons that comfort never could. The Buddha taught that when you understand suffering fully, it loses its power to control you. You stop fearing it. You stop resisting it. You begin to see it as part of the natural flow of life. This understanding creates inner stability because your peace is no longer dependent on avoiding pain. Your peace becomes rooted in awareness itself. You are not alone in what you are experiencing. You are walking a path that countless others have walked before you. Your pain does not separate you from humanity. It connects you to it. It connects you to the deeper truth that life is constantly changing, constantly teaching, and constantly guiding you toward greater awareness. This phase of your life is not permanent. It is part of your journey. It is part of your awakening. It is part of your transformation. The Buddha taught that those who understand their suffering deeply are the ones who awaken fully. Your suffering is not meaningless. It is guiding you toward greater wisdom, greater strength, and greater peace. One day, you will look back at this difficult chapter of your life and realize that you were never truly alone. You were simply walking through a necessary part of your journey, a journey that was preparing you to awaken, to grow, and to discover a peace that cannot be taken away by changing circumstances. 9. Your peace is not something you find outside. It is something you awaken within. During difficult times, it is natural to search for peace in the outside world. You may believe that peace will return when your problems are solved, when people treat you better, when your life becomes stable again, or when your external situation improves. The mind creates the idea that peace exists somewhere in the future, waiting for the moment when everything finally falls into place. Because of this belief, many people spend their lives chasing external solutions, hoping that one day their circumstances will align perfectly and their suffering will disappear. But the Buddha taught something very different. He taught that true peace is not something you find outside of yourself. It is something you awaken within yourself, independent of what happens in the external world. The external world is constantly changing. People change, situations change, and life moves in unpredictable ways. If your peace depends entirely on external stability, then your peace will always remain fragile. It will come and go depending on events you cannot fully control. When things go well, you feel calm. When things fall apart, you feel broken. This creates a cycle of emotional instability where your inner state is controlled by external circumstances. The Buddha taught that this way of living keeps people trapped in suffering because they are constantly depending on unstable conditions to create internal stability. True peace begins the moment you stop depending entirely on external conditions for your emotional well-being. It begins when you turn your attention inward and discover the awareness that exists beneath your thoughts, beneath your fears, and beneath your emotional reactions. This awareness is always present, even during your most painful moments. It is the part of you that observes your thoughts, the part of you that notices your emotions, and the part of you that remains present regardless of what you are experiencing. The Buddha taught that this awareness is your true nature and that peace naturally arises when you reconnect with it. Many people believe that peace means the absence of problems, but the Buddha taught that peace is not the absence of difficulty. Peace is the absence of inner resistance to difficulty. It is the ability to remain aware and present even when life is uncertain. When you stop fighting against reality internally, your mind begins to calm naturally. This calmness does not come from controlling the external world. It comes from understanding your internal world. Your mind often creates suffering by constantly moving between the past and the future. It replays painful memories from the past, creating regret and sadness. It imagines uncertain futures, creating fear and anxiety. But the present moment, the moment you are in right now, is often much calmer than the thoughts your mind creates about it. The Buddha taught that peace exists only in the present moment, because the present moment is the only place where life is actually happening. When you bring your awareness fully into the present, you step out of the endless mental stories that create suffering. Peace is not something you need to build. It is something that already exists within you. It becomes hidden only when your mind is overwhelmed by fear, attachment, and unconscious thinking. When you become aware of your thoughts instead of being controlled by them, you begin to reconnect with the peace that was always there. This peace is not created by external success, approval, or stability. It exists independently of those things. The Buddha often taught that searching for peace outside yourself is like searching for something that is already in your hands. People spend years chasing external validation, external security, and external comfort, believing that these things will finally bring them lasting peace. But even when they achieve these things, the peace remains temporary because external conditions are always subject to change. Lasting peace comes only when you stop searching outside and begin understanding yourself within. When you awaken inner peace, external events lose their power to control your emotional state. Difficult situations may still occur, but they no longer break you in the same way. You begin to experience life with greater stability. You begin to understand that while you cannot control everything that happens outside of you, you can remain grounded within yourself. This grounded awareness becomes your refuge. It becomes a place of calm that exists regardless of external chaos. Inner peace does not mean that you stop feeling emotions. You will still experience sadness, uncertainty, and discomfort at times, but these emotions no longer control your identity. You experience them without becoming completely consumed by them. You observe them with awareness, knowing that they are temporary. This awareness creates emotional freedom. The Buddha taught that peace is not something you achieve in the future. It is something you realize in the present. It is the natural state of a mind that is no longer trapped by attachment, fear, and resistance. When you stop trying to control everything and begin accepting life as it is, your mind begins to relax. This relaxation allows peace to emerge naturally. Many people wait for life to become perfect before allowing themselves to feel peaceful. They believe that peace will come after their problems are solved. But the Buddha taught that peace must be discovered even in imperfect conditions. Because life will never remain permanently perfect, and if you wait for perfection before allowing yourself to feel peaceful, you will spend your entire life waiting. Your peace does not depend on external certainty. It depends on your internal awareness. It depends on your ability to remain present, aware, and accepting of reality as it is. When you stop searching for permanent security in temporary things, you begin to discover the stability that exists within you. This realization changes everything. You stop fearing uncertainty as much. You stop depending entirely on others for your emotional stability. You stop believing that your peace is something fragile that can be easily taken away. Instead, you begin to understand that your peace is part of your awareness itself. The Buddha taught that awakening is not about escaping life. It is about understanding life deeply. It is about understanding your mind, your thoughts, and your attachments. It is about realizing that peace was never outside of you. It was always within you, waiting to be discovered beneath the noise of the mind. Even during your hardest moments, this peace still exists within you. It has not disappeared. It has only been hidden beneath layers of fear, attachment, and unconscious thinking. When you bring awareness to your experience, when you stop resisting reality, and when you stop searching for peace outside yourself, you begin to uncover the peace that was always there. Your peace is not something that life gives you. It is something you awaken within yourself. And once you discover it, no external situation can truly take it away from you. 10. One day, you will realize that this pain was never here to break you. It was here to awaken you. When you are in the middle of deep suffering, it is almost impossible to see anything beyond the pain. Your mind becomes focused on what is lost, what is broken, and what feels unfair. Every day can feel heavy, and every step forward can feel uncertain. In these moments, it is natural to believe that this pain has no purpose, that it has only come to take something away from you. You may feel like something inside you has been damaged permanently, and that the version of yourself that once felt calm, confident, and whole is gone forever. But the Buddha taught that this perception is incomplete. He taught that suffering, while painful, is not meaningless. It carries within it the potential to awaken you to truths that comfort and stability often hide. Pain has a way of breaking illusions. Before suffering enters your life, you may believe that your happiness depends on certain people, certain outcomes, or certain external conditions. You may believe that your identity is defined by your success, your relationships, or your sense of control over your life. These beliefs create a fragile sense of security because they depend on things that are constantly changing. When suffering arrives, it disrupts these illusions. It removes the false sense of permanence that the mind had created. At first, this feels like destruction. It feels like something important has been taken away. But in reality, something deeper is happening. You are being guided to see life more clearly, without the illusions that once defined your sense of stability. The Buddha taught that awakening often begins at the moment when illusions break. When the mind can no longer depend on external conditions for its sense of identity, it is forced to look deeper. It is forced to discover something more stable, something that does not depend on changing circumstances. This discovery does not happen instantly. It happens gradually, through awareness, reflection, and understanding. Each moment of suffering becomes an opportunity to observe your mind, to understand your attachments, and to see how your thoughts create your emotional experience. At first, suffering may make you feel weaker, but over time, it reveals your strength. You begin to realize that you are capable of enduring more than you once believed. You begin to see that your existence does not depend on perfect conditions. Even when things fall apart, you continue to exist. You continue to breathe. You continue to move forward. This realization creates a deeper trust in yourself. You begin to understand that your strength is not something fragile. It is something that exists beneath your fear, beneath your uncertainty, and beneath your emotional pain. Suffering also deepens your awareness. Before suffering, the mind often lives unconsciously, constantly chasing pleasure and avoiding discomfort. It moves automatically, reacting to situations without understanding itself. But suffering interrupts this unconscious movement. It forces you to stop. It forces you to observe your thoughts, your emotions, and your reactions more carefully. You begin to see patterns that you never noticed before. You begin to understand how attachment creates fear, how expectations create disappointment, and how resistance creates suffering. This awareness is the beginning of awakening. The Buddha taught that awakening does not mean escaping pain completely. It means understanding pain so deeply that it no longer controls you in the same way. It means recognizing that pain is a temporary experience, not a permanent identity. It means realizing that beneath your pain, there is an awareness that remains calm and unchanged. This awareness becomes your refuge. It becomes the place where peace exists, even during difficult times. One day, as time passes and your understanding deepens, you will begin to see your past suffering differently. What once felt like destruction will begin to look like transformation. What once felt like loss will begin to look like release. What once felt like punishment will begin to look like guidance. You will begin to realize that your suffering forced you to grow in ways that comfort never could. It forced you to become more aware. It forced you to become more emotionally independent. It forced you to discover strength that you did not know existed within you. Many people who reach deep inner peace do not reach it because their lives were easy. They reach it because their suffering forced them to awaken. It forced them to stop depending entirely on external conditions for their happiness. It forced them to discover stability within themselves. It forced them to see the truth of impermanence, the truth of attachment, and the truth of awareness. Their suffering became the doorway to their awakening. Your suffering is not here to end your story. It is here to change your story. It is here to guide you away from illusions and toward truth. It is here to help you discover the part of yourself that cannot be broken by external events. This part of you has always existed, even during your most painful moments. It is the awareness that observes your experience without being destroyed by it. At this moment, you may not fully understand why this pain is part of your journey. You may still feel lost, confused, or emotionally exhausted. But awakening is a gradual process. Understanding comes slowly, through awareness and patience. Each day that you continue forward, each moment that you remain present, you are moving closer to clarity. The Buddha taught that nothing in life is permanent, including suffering. Your current pain will not remain forever. It will change, just as everything else changes. And as it changes, it will leave behind something valuable. It will leave behind wisdom. It will leave behind strength. It will leave behind awareness. One day, you will look back at this painful chapter of your life, and instead of seeing only suffering, you will see transformation. You will see that this pain helped you grow. You will see that it helped you awaken. You will see that it helped you discover peace that does not depend on external conditions. You will realize that this pain was never here to break you. It was here to awaken you. 11. Accepting life as it is will free you from unnecessary suffering. One of the deepest causes of suffering, as taught by the Buddha, is the mind's constant resistance to reality. The mind creates expectations about how life should be, how people should behave, and how situations should unfold. It builds an image of the perfect outcome and becomes emotionally attached to that image. When reality does not match that image, suffering begins. This suffering does not come only from what happened, but from the mind's refusal to accept what happened. The mind says, "This should not have happened, this is unfair, this is wrong," and in that resistance, it creates emotional pain that can last far longer than the event itself. Many people believe that peace will come only when life becomes perfect, when problems disappear, when people behave exactly as expected, and when everything feels stable and secure. But the Buddha taught that this belief is the source of endless suffering, because life is not designed to remain fixed or predictable. Life is constantly changing. Situations change. People change. Circumstances change. When you resist this natural movement of life, you create tension within yourself. You begin fighting a battle that cannot be won, because reality continues to move forward regardless of your resistance. Acceptance does not mean that you approve of everything that happens. It does not mean that you stop caring or stop trying to improve your life. Acceptance means that you stop fighting reality internally. It means that you recognize what is already happening without creating additional mental suffering by resisting it. When you accept reality, you are no longer trapped in the endless cycle of wishing things were different. You begin to conserve your mental energy. You begin to experience calm, even in imperfect situations. The Buddha taught that suffering is often amplified by the stories the mind creates about reality. The mind replays events repeatedly, analyzes them, judges them, and creates emotional reactions based on those mental stories. These stories keep the suffering alive long after the event itself has passed. But when you accept reality as it is, without constantly replaying it in your mind, you begin to break this cycle. You begin to live in the present moment instead of being trapped in mental resistance. Acceptance also frees you from the illusion of control. Many people suffer because they believe they should be able to control everything in their lives. They believe they should be able to control other people's actions, control outcomes, and control the direction of their future completely. But the Buddha taught that much of life is outside of your control. When you accept this truth, you stop exhausting yourself trying to force life into your expectations. You begin to focus on what you can control, which is your awareness, your actions, and your response to situations. When you accept life as it is, you begin to experience emotional freedom. You stop being emotionally controlled by every change, every loss, and every unexpected event. You begin to understand that change is not your enemy. It is part of the natural flow of existence. This understanding creates inner stability. You become less reactive. You become more calm. You become more present. Acceptance also allows healing to begin. When you resist reality, you keep yourself emotionally trapped in the moment of pain. Your mind keeps reliving it, and your emotional wounds remain open. But when you accept reality, you allow your mind to move forward. You allow yourself to process the experience naturally. You allow healing to occur. The Buddha often taught that acceptance is the doorway to peace, not because life becomes perfect, but because your mind stops creating unnecessary suffering. You begin to see situations clearly, without distortion. You begin to understand that your peace does not depend on controlling external conditions. It depends on your internal awareness. Acceptance also helps you release attachment to the past. Many people suffer because they remain mentally attached to what life used to be. They replay memories, wishing things had remained the same. But the past cannot be changed. When you accept this truth, you stop living in mental conflict with reality. You begin to live fully in the present moment, where life is actually happening. Living in acceptance does not make you passive. It makes you aware. It allows you to respond to life with clarity, instead of reacting with emotional resistance. You begin to make decisions from a place of calm instead of fear. You begin to move forward with greater emotional balance. The Buddha taught that acceptance is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is the understanding that fighting reality only creates more suffering. It is the understanding that peace is found not in controlling life, but in understanding life. When you accept life as it is, you stop feeling like life is against you. You begin to feel connected to the natural flow of existence. You begin to trust that even difficult experiences are part of your growth and awakening. Your suffering begins to lose its power when you stop resisting it. Your mind becomes quieter. Your emotional state becomes more stable. You begin to experience moments of peace even in situations that once caused deep suffering. Acceptance frees you from the prison of resistance. It frees you from the endless mental struggle of wishing reality were different. It allows you to experience life fully, without unnecessary emotional suffering. The Buddha taught that true peace becomes possible when you stop arguing with reality. When you accept life as it is, you free yourself from unnecessary suffering, and you begin to discover a deeper calm that exists within you, regardless of what is happening outside of you. 12. Everything you are going through is shaping you into a wiser, stronger, and more aware person. When you are in the middle of a painful or difficult phase, it is easy to believe that your suffering has no purpose, that it is only an obstacle standing in the way of your happiness. Your mind focuses on what is uncomfortable, what is uncertain, and what feels unfair. You may begin to question your path, your strength, and even your sense of direction in life. But the Buddha taught that nothing you experience is truly wasted. Every moment of your life, especially the difficult ones, is shaping your awareness, your understanding, and your inner strength. Even when it feels like you are lost, something deeper within you is developing, something that cannot be seen immediately, but something that will eventually transform the way you see yourself and the world. Most people believe that growth happens only during comfortable and successful moments, but the Buddha taught that true growth happens during moments of discomfort and uncertainty. Comfort rarely forces you to look deeply within yourself. Comfort allows you to remain in familiar patterns, familiar beliefs, and familiar emotional habits. But suffering interrupts these patterns. It forces you to pause. It forces you to reflect. It forces you to confront parts of yourself that you may have ignored before. This confrontation is not punishment. It is the beginning of wisdom. Difficult experiences help you understand the true nature of life. They teach you that external stability is temporary. They teach you that attachment to temporary things creates suffering. They teach you that emotional strength does not come from controlling life, but from understanding life. These lessons cannot be learned through comfort alone. They must be experienced directly. Every moment of pain carries within it a lesson about impermanence, awareness, and inner strength. The Buddha taught that suffering has the power to awaken awareness. Before suffering, the mind often lives unconsciously. It moves automatically, reacting to situations without fully understanding itself. But suffering forces you to observe your thoughts, your emotions, and your attachments. You begin to see how your mind creates expectations. You begin to see how your attachments create fear. You begin to see how your resistance creates suffering. This awareness is the beginning of transformation. Each difficult experience removes illusions that once defined your sense of identity. You may have believed that your worth depended on certain people, certain roles, or certain outcomes. But when those things change or disappear, you are forced to discover something deeper within yourself. You begin to realize that your true nature is not defined by external conditions. It is defined by your awareness. This realization creates inner stability that cannot be easily shaken by external change. Difficult times also develop emotional resilience. Resilience is not something you are born with. It is something that develops through experience. Each time you face pain and continue moving forward, your emotional endurance increases. Your mind becomes more capable of handling uncertainty. Your fear begins to lose its power over you. You begin to trust your ability to survive difficult situations. The Buddha taught that wisdom is not gained through information alone. It is gained through experience. The lessons learned through suffering become deeply rooted in your awareness. They change the way you see life. They change the way you respond to challenges. They change the way you understand yourself. Suffering also deepens your compassion. When you experience pain, you begin to understand the pain of others more clearly. You realize that every person you meet is facing struggles that may not be visible on the surface. This awareness softens your judgment. It increases your patience. It increases your empathy. Compassion is one of the most powerful qualities the Buddha taught, and it is often developed through understanding suffering. Difficult experiences also help you release unhealthy attachments. When you lose something or face unexpected change, you begin to understand that holding on too tightly creates suffering. You begin to learn the importance of letting go. This does not mean that you stop caring. It means that you stop depending entirely on external things for your sense of peace. Each challenge you face strengthens your awareness. It helps you develop a deeper relationship with your own mind. You begin to observe your thoughts instead of being controlled by them. You begin to understand your emotional reactions. This awareness creates emotional freedom. The Buddha taught that transformation is a gradual process. It does not happen instantly, it happens slowly, through awareness, reflection, and experience. Each moment of suffering contributes to this transformation. Even when you cannot see the results immediately, the process is unfolding. One day, you will look back at your current suffering with a different perspective. What feels like confusion today will become clarity. What feels like weakness today will become strength. What feels like loss today will become wisdom. You will realize that your suffering was not meaningless. It was shaping you into someone stronger, wiser, and more aware. Difficult experiences remove illusions and reveal truth. They guide you toward understanding yourself more deeply. They help you discover the awareness that exists beneath your thoughts and emotions. This awareness becomes your foundation. The Buddha taught that awakening is not about escaping suffering completely. It is about understanding suffering so deeply that it no longer controls you. When you understand suffering, you understand life. When you understand life, you discover peace. Everything you are going through right now is part of this process. It is shaping your awareness. It is strengthening your mind. It is guiding you toward deeper understanding. Your suffering is not a sign that you are failing. It is a sign that you are evolving. It is helping you release illusions, develop strength, and awaken awareness. Even when the path feels unclear, transformation is happening within you. Every experience, every challenge, and every moment of difficulty is shaping you into a person who is more aware, more resilient, and more at peace with the true nature of life. You are not the same person you were before your suffering began. You are becoming someone stronger, wiser, and more aware. And one day, you will realize that everything you went through was shaping you into the person you were meant to become. 13. The person you are becoming is more powerful than the person you used to be. When you are going through difficult times, it is easy to focus only on what you have lost, on what has changed, and on the version of yourself that existed before the pain began. You may find yourself remembering a time when you felt more secure, more confident, and more at peace, and you may wonder if you will ever feel that way again. Your mind may tell you that something inside you has been damaged, that you are no longer the same person, and that the strength you once had is gone. But the Buddha taught that you are not becoming weaker through suffering. You are becoming stronger, wiser, and more aware, even if you cannot see it clearly yet. The person you are becoming is not broken. The person you are becoming is awakening. Suffering changes you, but it does not change you by taking away your strength. It changes you by revealing strength that was always hidden beneath the surface. Before suffering, much of your identity may have been shaped by comfort, routine, and external stability. You may not have needed to question yourself deeply because life felt predictable and manageable. But when suffering enters your life, it forces you to confront uncertainty. It forces you to face emotional pain, fear, and confusion. This confrontation is not here to destroy you. It is here to help you discover parts of yourself that you did not know existed. The Buddha taught that suffering removes illusions and reveals truth. It removes the illusion that happiness can be permanently secured through external conditions. It removes the illusion that your identity is defined by your roles, your relationships, or your external success. These illusions create a fragile sense of self because they depend on things that are constantly changing. When suffering removes these illusions, it creates space for something more stable to emerge. It creates space for awareness. It creates space for inner strength. It creates space for wisdom. At first, this process can feel like losing yourself. You may feel uncertain about who you are without the things that once defined you. You may feel emotionally exposed, as if the protective layers that once gave you comfort have been removed. But this exposure is not weakness. It is clarity. It allows you to see yourself more honestly. It allows you to discover your true nature, which exists beyond external labels and temporary conditions. The person you are becoming is learning to rely less on external stability and more on internal awareness. You are learning that your peace does not depend entirely on other people or external outcomes. You are learning that your strength comes from your ability to remain present and aware, even during uncertainty. This awareness creates emotional independence. It allows you to experience life without being completely controlled by it. Suffering also strengthens your emotional endurance. Each time you face pain and continue forward, your mind becomes more resilient. You begin to understand that pain, while uncomfortable, does not have the power to destroy your awareness. You begin to trust your ability to survive difficult experiences. This trust becomes a foundation for your inner stability. You no longer fear uncertainty in the same way, because you know that you have the strength to face it. The Buddha taught that awakening involves seeing life clearly, without illusions. It involves understanding the impermanent nature of all things. It involves understanding that external conditions cannot provide permanent security. This understanding frees you from emotional dependence on temporary things. It allows you to develop a deeper sense of calm that exists regardless of external change. The person you are becoming is also more aware of your mind. You are beginning to observe your thoughts instead of automatically believing them. You are beginning to understand how your mind creates fear, attachment, and suffering. This awareness gives you the ability to step back from your thoughts and see them as temporary mental events. This creates emotional freedom. You are no longer completely controlled by unconscious thinking. Suffering also deepens your compassion. When you experience pain, you begin to understand the pain of others more clearly. You become more patient, more understanding, and less judgmental. You begin to see that every person is facing their own struggles. This awareness creates a deeper connection with humanity. Compassion becomes a natural part of your awareness. The Buddha taught that true strength is not physical strength, but mental and emotional stability. It is the ability to remain aware, calm, and present, even during difficult times. This strength develops through experience. It develops through facing suffering and understanding it. The person you are becoming is not defined by your suffering. You are defined by your awareness of your suffering. This awareness is what creates transformation. It allows you to learn from your experiences instead of being destroyed by them. One day, you will look back at this phase of your life and realize that it was not the end of your strength. It was the beginning of a deeper strength. You will realize that your suffering helped you grow. It helped you awaken. It helped you discover a version of yourself that is more stable, more aware, and more resilient. You may not feel powerful right now, but power is not always loud or obvious. True power is quiet. It exists in your ability to continue moving forward. It exists in your ability to remain aware. It exists in your ability to face life as it is, without losing yourself completely. The Buddha taught that awakening is not about becoming someone new. It is about discovering who you truly are beneath the illusions created by the mind. Your suffering is helping you remove those illusions. It is helping you discover your true nature. You are not becoming weaker. You are becoming stronger. You are not becoming lost. You are becoming aware. You are not becoming broken. You are becoming awake. The person you are becoming is more powerful than the person you used to be, because the person you are becoming is no longer dependent on temporary conditions for their sense of peace. The person you are becoming has faced suffering and discovered strength. The person you are becoming has begun the process of awakening. And once this awakening begins, nothing can take away the wisdom and awareness you have gained. 14. One day, you will feel peace again, and you will realize that you survived what you thought would break you. When you are in the middle of deep suffering, it can feel impossible to imagine a future where you are peaceful again. Pain has a way of narrowing your vision. It keeps your mind focused on the present discomfort, the present uncertainty, and the present emotional weight. Your thoughts may constantly remind you of what went wrong, of what was lost, and of what feels broken inside you. In these moments, peace can feel like something distant, something that belongs to your past, but not your future. You may begin to wonder if you will ever feel light again, if you will ever feel calm again, and if you will ever feel like yourself again. But the Buddha taught that no emotional state, no matter how intense, lasts forever. Just as joy is temporary, suffering is also temporary. Just as calmness can be disturbed, disturbance can also return to calmness. The mind often believes that the pain of the present moment represents the permanent reality of your life. It creates the illusion that this suffering will never end, and this illusion creates fear and hopelessness. But the truth is that life is constantly moving, constantly changing, and constantly transforming. Every moment that passes brings subtle shifts within your mind and your awareness. Even when you do not notice it, healing is happening. Even when you still feel heavy, something within you is slowly adapting, slowly strengthening, and slowly becoming more stable. The Buddha taught that healing does not always happen suddenly. It happens gradually, through awareness, acceptance, and time. Each moment that you continue to exist, each moment that you continue to breathe, and each moment that you continue to move forward is part of this healing process. You may not feel strong, but your continued presence is proof of your strength. You may not feel peaceful, but your continued awareness is guiding you toward peace. Suffering often convinces you that you have lost something permanently, but in many cases, suffering is clearing space for something new to emerge. It removes illusions that once defined your sense of identity. It removes emotional dependencies that once made your peace fragile. It removes attachments that once kept your happiness tied to unstable conditions. At first, this removal feels painful because the mind resists change. It wants things to remain as they were. It wants familiarity. It wants certainty. But life does not remain fixed. Life evolves, and you are evolving with it. As time passes, your relationship with your suffering begins to change. What once felt unbearable begins to feel manageable. What once felt overwhelming begins to feel distant. The emotional intensity that once controlled your thoughts begins to lose its power. This does not mean that the past disappears. It means that your awareness grows stronger than the pain. You begin to see your experiences with greater clarity. You begin to understand what you could not understand before. The Buddha taught that suffering becomes wisdom when it is understood. When you observe your suffering with awareness instead of resistance, it begins to transform your understanding. You begin to see the impermanent nature of emotions. You begin to see the patterns of your mind. You begin to see how attachment creates fear and how acceptance creates peace. This understanding changes the way you experience life. It creates emotional stability that does not depend entirely on external conditions. One day, without realizing exactly when it happened, you will notice that you are no longer carrying the same emotional weight. You will notice that your thoughts have become quieter. You will notice that your mind no longer returns to the same painful memories with the same intensity. You will notice moments of calm that appear naturally, without effort. These moments may be small at first, but they are signs that healing is unfolding. You will begin to reconnect with parts of yourself that felt lost. You will begin to feel strength where there was once weakness. You will begin to feel clarity where there was once confusion. This transformation does not erase your past suffering, but it changes your relationship with it. Instead of feeling defined by your pain, you begin to feel strengthened by your survival. The Buddha taught that peace is not something that comes from controlling life. It comes from understanding life. It comes from understanding that everything is temporary. It comes from understanding that your awareness is stronger than any emotional state. When you understand this deeply, peace begins to emerge naturally. It does not come because life becomes perfect. It comes because your mind becomes stable regardless of external conditions. You will realize that the pain you once feared did not destroy you. It revealed your strength. It revealed your resilience. It revealed your ability to survive and adapt. You will realize that you are capable of enduring difficult experiences without losing your awareness completely. Suffering also teaches you gratitude for peace. When you have experienced emotional darkness, you begin to appreciate emotional calmness more deeply. You begin to value the quiet moments of life. You begin to appreciate your own presence. This appreciation creates a deeper and more stable form of happiness. The Buddha taught that awakening often begins with suffering because suffering forces you to see life clearly. It forces you to release illusions. It forces you to discover your true nature, which exists beyond temporary emotional states. Your true nature is awareness itself. This awareness remains present, even during suffering. It remains present, even during uncertainty. One day, you will look back at this difficult chapter of your life with a different perspective. You will see that what once felt like destruction was actually transformation. You will see that what once felt like weakness was actually strength developing beneath the surface. You will see that what once felt like darkness was guiding you toward awareness. You will realize that you survived something that you once believed would break you. This realization will change your relationship with fear. You will trust yourself more. You will trust your ability to face future challenges. You will understand that your strength is not dependent on perfect conditions. Peace will return, not because life stopped changing, but because you learned how to remain stable within change. You will discover a calmness that exists beneath external uncertainty. You will discover a quiet confidence that comes from knowing you have endured and survived. The Buddha taught that nothing you experience is meaningless. Every moment of your life contributes to your awakening. Every moment of suffering contributes to your wisdom. Every moment of survival contributes to your strength. You may still be in the middle of your storm, but storms do not last forever. Change is the nature of existence. Healing is the nature of awareness. Peace is the nature of your true self. And one day, you will wake up and realize that the suffering you once feared was not the end of your story, it was the beginning of your awakening. 16. Trust that your life is still unfolding, even when you cannot see where it is leading. One of the most difficult experiences during painful times is the feeling of uncertainty. When life does not go according to your expectations, when plans fall apart, and when the future becomes unclear, your mind begins to feel unstable. It begins to search for answers, for certainty, and for reassurance that everything will eventually be okay. But when those answers do not come immediately, fear begins to grow. You may begin to feel lost, as if your life has stopped moving forward, as if you have reached a place where there is no clear direction. The Buddha taught that this feeling of uncertainty is part of the human experience, and that it does not mean your life has stopped unfolding. It only means that you are in a moment where the path ahead has not yet revealed itself clearly. The mind naturally wants certainty because certainty creates a sense of control and safety. When you know what will happen next, your mind feels calm. But when the future becomes unclear, the mind becomes restless. It begins imagining negative possibilities. It begins creating fear about outcomes that have not even happened. This fear makes uncertainty feel dangerous, even though uncertainty itself is simply part of life's natural unfolding. The Buddha taught that the future has always been uncertain, even during moments when you felt secure. The difference is that during comfortable times, you were not aware of this uncertainty. During difficult times, uncertainty becomes visible, and this visibility can feel uncomfortable. But uncertainty is not your enemy. It is the space where transformation happens. It is the space where new understanding, new strength, and new direction begin to emerge. When your old path disappears, it creates space for a new path to form. This process can feel confusing because the mind wants immediate clarity. It wants to see the entire path at once. But life does not reveal itself all at once. It reveals itself step by step. Each moment you continue forward reveals the next moment. Each experience contributes to your growth, even if you do not understand its purpose immediately. The Buddha taught that life is not something you fully control, it is something you experience. When you try to control every outcome, you create resistance against the natural flow of existence. This resistance creates emotional tension and suffering. But when you learn to trust the unfolding of life, your mind becomes calmer. Trust does not mean that you know exactly what will happen. Trust means that you understand that change is part of life, and that you have the strength to face whatever comes. There were moments in your past when you also faced uncertainty. There were times when you did not know how things would turn out. There were times when you felt afraid of the future, yet those moments passed. New opportunities appeared, new understanding emerged. Your life continued moving forward, even when you could not see the direction clearly. This is the nature of life. It continues unfolding, even when your mind cannot predict its path. Uncertainty also frees you from illusions. When you believe that you fully control your life, you create attachment to specific outcomes. This attachment creates fear of losing those outcomes. But when you accept uncertainty, you release that attachment. You begin to understand that peace does not come from controlling the future. It comes from being present in the current moment. This presence creates stability, even in uncertain conditions. The Buddha taught that awareness exists only in the present moment. The future exists only as imagination. When your mind becomes trapped in fear about the future, it disconnects you from the present moment, where your true life is happening. When you return your awareness to the present moment, uncertainty loses its emotional power. You begin to see that right now, in this moment, you are still here. You are still breathing. You are still capable of moving forward. Your life is not finished. Your story is still unfolding. Even when you feel lost, your experiences are shaping your understanding. They are shaping your strength. They are shaping your awareness. Growth often happens silently, without dramatic signs. It happens through small shifts in perspective, through gradual emotional healing, and through deeper understanding of yourself. The Buddha taught that awakening is not about predicting the future. It is about understanding the present. When you fully understand the present moment, fear about the future begins to dissolve. You realize that you do not need to know everything in advance. You only need to remain aware and present as life unfolds. Trusting life does not mean that everything will always be easy. It means that every experience, whether comfortable or painful, contributes to your growth. It means understanding that difficulty does not mean failure. It means understanding that uncertainty does not mean you are lost. It means understanding that your awareness is capable of adapting to change. When you stop resisting uncertainty, your mind becomes calmer. You stop exhausting yourself trying to predict every outcome. You begin to experience life more fully. You begin to notice moments of calm, even during difficult phases. This calmness is not created by certainty, it is created by acceptance. The Buddha taught that the path to peace is not found by controlling life, but by understanding life. When you understand that uncertainty is natural, you stop fearing it. You begin to trust that your life is unfolding exactly as it needs to. Even painful experiences are guiding you toward deeper awareness. Your current confusion is not permanent. Your current uncertainty is not permanent. Your life is still unfolding, even if you cannot see the full picture yet. Every step you take contributes to your transformation. Every moment of awareness contributes to your awakening. You do not need to know the entire path ahead. You only need to trust that you are capable of walking it. Your strength is not dependent on certainty. Your strength is dependent on your awareness. The Buddha taught that peace becomes possible when you stop demanding certainty from life and begin trusting the natural unfolding of existence. When you trust life, you stop feeling lost. You begin to feel present. You begin to feel stable, even in uncertain conditions. Your life is still moving forward. Your story is still being written. Your awakening is still unfolding. Even now, in this moment, you are exactly where you need to be for your growth, your understanding, and your transformation. 17. You are not the same person anymore, and that is part of your awakening. One of the most difficult realizations during painful times is the feeling that you are no longer the same person you once were. You may notice that your thoughts have changed, your emotions feel different, and the way you see life is no longer the same. Things that once mattered deeply to you may no longer feel important, and things that once felt certain may now feel fragile and uncertain. This change can feel uncomfortable and confusing because the mind naturally seeks familiarity. It wants to return to the version of yourself that felt stable, confident, and untouched by suffering. But the Buddha taught that change is not something to fear. Change is the natural movement of life, and it is also the path of awakening. Suffering has a way of transforming you because it forces you to see reality more clearly. Before suffering, much of your identity may have been built on external conditions, your relationships, your roles, your plans, and your expectations. These things gave you a sense of stability and defined how you saw yourself. But when those conditions change or disappear, the identity built upon them begins to shift. At first, this shift can feel like losing yourself. You may feel emotionally exposed, uncertain about who you are, and disconnected from the version of yourself you once recognized. But this is not the loss of your true self. It is the removal of illusions that once covered your true nature. The Buddha taught that most people live their lives identified with temporary roles and external conditions. They believe they are their success, their relationships, their achievements, or their failures. But these things are constantly changing. When you identify completely with things that are temporary, your sense of self becomes unstable. When those things change, you feel like you have lost yourself. But your true nature is not these temporary roles. Your true nature is the awareness that exists beneath them. This awareness remains present, even when everything else changes. Suffering helps you discover this awareness. It breaks the illusion that your identity depends entirely on external stability. It forces you to look deeper within yourself. You begin to realize that even when your external life changes, there is still something within you that remains present. There is still awareness. There is still consciousness. There is still the ability to observe your thoughts and emotions. This awareness is your true self, and it cannot be destroyed by external change. The person you were before suffering existed within a certain level of awareness. That version of you had not yet experienced the lessons that suffering teaches. That version of you had not yet developed the same level of emotional depth, resilience, and understanding that you are developing now. The person you are becoming is not weaker. The person you are becoming is more aware. You are beginning to see life without illusions. You are beginning to understand impermanence. You are beginning to understand the nature of attachment and suffering. This transformation is part of awakening. Awakening does not mean becoming someone completely different. It means becoming more aware of your true nature. It means seeing through the illusions that once defined your sense of identity. It means understanding that your awareness exists independently of changing external conditions. Many people resist this transformation because it feels unfamiliar. The mind wants to return to its previous sense of stability. It wants things to be the way they were. But the Buddha taught that resisting change creates suffering, accepting change creates peace. When you accept that you are changing, you stop fighting against your own growth. You allow yourself to evolve naturally. This change also creates emotional independence. You begin to rely less on external validation and external stability for your sense of peace. You begin to discover stability within yourself. Your emotional state becomes less dependent on external circumstances. You become more grounded in your awareness. Suffering also deepens your understanding of life. You begin to see how fragile external conditions can be. You begin to see how attachment creates fear. You begin to see how expectations create disappointment. This understanding creates wisdom. Wisdom allows you to move through life with greater calm and clarity. The Buddha taught that awakening often feels like losing something, but in reality, it is the discovery of something deeper. You are not losing your true self. You are losing the illusions that once defined your identity. These illusions created emotional dependence on temporary things. As these illusions dissolve, your awareness becomes clearer. You may no longer see life in the same way, and this can feel uncomfortable. But this discomfort is part of transformation. It is part of becoming more aware. It is part of becoming emotionally free from illusions that once controlled your mind. The person you are becoming is more resilient. You have experienced pain and survived it. You have faced uncertainty and continued forward. You have seen the impermanent nature of life. These experiences have strengthened your awareness. The Buddha taught that awakening is not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming aware. It is about understanding life deeply. It is about understanding yourself beyond temporary conditions. You may feel different now, but this difference is not a sign of loss. It is a sign of growth. It is a sign that your awareness is expanding. It is a sign that you are awakening to a deeper understanding of yourself and life. Your suffering has changed you, but it has changed you in a way that brings you closer to your true nature. You are no longer living entirely within unconscious patterns. You are beginning to observe your mind more clearly. You are beginning to see reality more clearly. This transformation may feel uncomfortable, but it is guiding you toward greater emotional freedom. You are becoming less controlled by fear, less controlled by attachment, and less controlled by unconscious thinking. The Buddha taught that awakening is the process of seeing clearly. You are beginning to see clearly. You are beginning to understand yourself more deeply. You are not the same person anymore, and that is not something to fear. It is something to understand. It is something to accept. You are not becoming weaker. You are becoming more aware. You are not becoming lost. You are becoming awake. And as this awakening continues, you will discover a strength, a calmness, and a peace that cannot be taken away by the changing conditions of life. There will come a day when you will look back at this painful chapter of your life, and instead of feeling only sadness, you will feel understanding. You will realize that what once felt like destruction was actually transformation. What once felt like loss was actually release. What once felt like weakness was actually strength being built quietly beneath the surface. Right now, while you are in the middle of it, the pain may feel endless. Your mind may still carry questions, fears, and uncertainty. But the Buddha taught that no storm lasts forever. Everything in life is temporary, including suffering, including confusion, including emotional darkness. You may not notice it yet, but something within you has already begun to change. You are becoming more aware of your thoughts. You are becoming less dependent on external stability for your sense of peace. You are beginning to understand life in a deeper way. This understanding is not weakness. This understanding is awakening. Every difficult moment you survived has strengthened your awareness. Every painful experience has revealed your resilience. Every moment you continued forward, even when you felt broken, has proven that there is something within you that cannot be destroyed by external events. The Buddha taught that peace does not come from controlling life, but from understanding life. Life will always change. People will come and go. Situations will rise and fall. But beneath all of these changes, there is something within you that remains present. There is awareness. There is consciousness. There is the part of you that observes your experience without being destroyed by it. This awareness is your true refuge. This awareness is where your peace exists. One day, the emotional weight you carry now will feel lighter. One day, the confusion you feel now will be replaced with clarity. One day, the pain you feel now will become part of your wisdom. You will begin to see that this hard time did not come to break you. It came to awaken you. It came to show you your strength. It came to guide you toward a deeper understanding of yourself and life. You will realize that you survived something you once believed you could not survive. You will realize that your strength was always greater than your fear. You will realize that your peace was never truly gone. It was only hidden beneath the noise of the mind, waiting for you to rediscover it. This moment is not the end of your story. This moment is part of your awakening. This moment is shaping you into someone stronger, wiser, and more aware than you were before. Trust this process. Trust your awareness. Trust that no matter how difficult this phase feels, it is not permanent. Peace will return. Clarity will return. Strength will return. And when it does, you will realize that you did not lose yourself in this storm. You found yourself,